Thank you, Madam Chairman. Chief, good to see you again. Thanks for your recent visit to North Dakota. Just like to follow up on that. First question goes to the environmental assessment and the allotment plant for the grazers. In both cases, they wanted changes made, proactively. Can you give me a status report on how you're coming with that?
Yeah, Senator, follow up with that meeting. Our folks, our staff are going to continue to work with the Grazing Association members to be able to address their concerns. And I think I want to thank you for hosting that meeting, because I also think it helped to clarify a few issues to help us to be able to move forward and address their concerns.
So you feel you will be able to, working with your state director, be able to make adjustments that should work for the grazing associations and the ranchers?
I was optimistic after listening that, from the work there done by the university, that I think would provide a slightly different approach, one that I think will work for both the ranchers and also address our needs. So that was the thing I left with that meeting, is that a little different approach that was being proposed there that could help, I think, really once and for all kind of settle this one issue that we've had there.
Well, I appreciate that. The other thing I'd like to emphasize is working with NDSU range scientists, particularly Dr. Sedovic. I think that not only are they very knowledgeable and they focus on the science, but they also have a lot of credibility with the ranchers in the area. And so I'd emphasize that you work closely with NDSU and their range scientists, and particularly on the 3.5-inch visual obstruction reading. I think they can really help get to a solution that the ranchers feel is common sense and workable.
Yeah, and that's the issue that the university and the doctor, he has come up with a different approach to really determine which areas actually have the capability to produce that stubble height. And I think from the discussions we had there at your meeting and a little bit of follow-up discussion, I left there being more optimistic than I've been for a while, that, hey, this is a better approach that the university is coming up with for us to be able to answer that question about which areas are capable or not. And it seems like that's really been the issue. The ranchers can manage their livestock to be able to produce the stubble height we need. We just need to be able to understand which areas are actually capable and which ones are not. Right. And I think once we can come to agreement on that, I'm optimistic that we can put this issue behind us and move forward.
In order to continue the Dakota Prairie Grasslands demonstration project, do you know, does that require legislation, or is that something you can do without legislation?
We can continue to work under that demonstration project. Okay. At this point, we don't need any additional legislation.
That's important that we continue it. And then let me switch to the fire piece. I know you're getting a lot of questions on fires, but it looks like we're drier this year. We certainly are drier this year starting out than we have been the last several, particularly in the West. So address for a minute your approach to the grasslands in terms of steps you're taking to be prepared for fires this season. Obviously, you're very focused on the forests, but the grasslands have fire issue as well.
Yeah, well, the grasslands are part of the national forest, so it's for when I talk about the national forest, I'm always including, the grasslands. So what we're doing there in the state is what we're doing across the country, is to be working with our cooperators, with volunteer fire departments, so that we're ready to go when the fire season, which in your case has already started. If I recall, the day I was up there, just a couple of days before, we'd already had several fires in your state that people were explaining to me they just never see this level of fire behavior occurring so early in the year. So those are the things to make sure that we have the resources we need, that people are ready, and that if there's anything that we need to address, that we can take care of ahead of a time. And in your state, and like many states, it's those volunteer fire departments that are a big part of our initial attack resources. And they're responsible for being able to get there quickly and be able to suppress so many of the fires. And so it's like in your state and the rest of the country, it takes all of us working together, the federal government, the state, counties, and local fire to be able to deal with this.
And then address the controlled burn issue for a minute too. Obviously, particularly sensitive this year because it's dry. And, you know, we really want you working with the people on the ground, not just the landowners, but obviously volunteer fire departments and everyone else. So touch on controlled burn for just a minute. Is that you're staying away from it this year because it's dry, or, you know, what's your plan?
Well, definitely, and when we have those conditions that we have up there, we often are not going to get in prescription to begin with, but we're only going to be doing prescribed burns where we have, you know, kind of the agreement and the support from the grazing associations, where in part of your state that's a little bit wetter, that association is very supportive of more fire. Other parts that are drier, we don't have that at least that agreement at this point. So we're not going to be using a lot of prescribed fire in those areas until we have the right conditions and the level of agreements so that everyone's together on what's the value of this, and make sure that we're factoring in the risk to avoid the situation we had a couple of years ago.
Thanks again, Chief. Appreciate it.